What's going on YouTube? So the Subaru Outback made quite the splash with its full redesign in 2026 because this is one of the biggest redesigns this model has ever undergone. That's why we were excited to live with this all-new model for the last week to see if the overall packaging and new technology were a game changer. So after living with it, is this the best Outback they've ever made? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Like always, let's get things started here with a quick spec dump. So you've got two different powertrains under the hood of the Outback. We have the upper end one, the XT. It's a 2.4 liter turbocharged boxer 4-cylinder engine, making 260 horsepower. It's paired to standard symmetrical all-wheel drive and a continuously variable transmission, with combined fuel economy of 24 mpg.
Now, the base price of the all-new Outback is $35,000 for 2026, and if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now, this is a 7-day review as well, so we've been living with this model for the past week, so we will be getting special elements like our Kentucky sound level reading as well as our real-world fuel economy.
But let's go ahead and close up the hood because first of all, we need to get into the exterior details as well as the new interior. Now, getting into the exterior design, this really is a big part of what people are perceiving as a huge change for this Outback model. They've definitely made this vehicle look a lot more SUV-like for the new generation than before, and that begins up here in the front with the boxy design. Now, I will point out that the overall proportions of the model are very, very similar to the outgoing generation, so a lot of it is just visual, and I think the grille does grow on you over time. It certainly did with us over the past week. Again, you'll see the big squared off grille through here. You have a gloss black finish along the top. This is the touring model you're looking at today. There are some differences between the trims, especially with the Wilderness, and we have a dedicated review on that as well. Down here at the bottom, this will all be a matte black finish. You have 8.7 inches of ground clearance as standard equipment. Now, as far as the headlights, of course, this is a big change as well. It's got a new split design with the top part being our daytime running light and turn signal indicator. The middle here is our projector LED headlights. These are standard on all models and they're adaptive as well. They're very effective at night. We were certainly quite impressed by this being a standard feature. And then down here at the bottom, you also have standard LED fog lamps. Next up, we have the wheels, which will range in size from 17 to 19-inch alloys. This is the top model, so of course we've got the 19-inch contrast alloy. I really like the overall look of this. It has a lot of nice detailing inside of it. Now, when you look at the cladding, of course, all the Outbacks have always had thick cladding, but this is going to be a little bit more boxy than any previous generation, especially up here at the top. And then as we move back here to our mirrors, blind spot monitoring and heating are both standard features. Power folding comes on this top model.
So for this newest generation, the Outback grew about 0.6 inches to now be about 191.7 inches long. But that's not the biggest deal here. That comes more in terms of height. It's now 1.4 inches taller to give it more of that substantial SUV look. It's less wagon-esque than ever and more boxy to be in line with its competition. Now, all models, as far as features go, will have the raised roof rails. And as far as other design elements, you have this nice painted element here, and then all of your window trim will be blacked out. This is one of the new colors for 2026. It's deep emerald green pearl. I personally really like it, though we had mixed opinions on it throughout this week. But as we come around to the rear, you're going to continue to have that substantial boxier design with the all-new elements for 2026. As far as some individual design elements, you have a spoiler here up top, an exposed rear wiper, and then all the way across the back you see we have the full-length LED taillights, almost fully LED. My biggest disappointment is the fact that Subaru did not update the turn signal indicator to be LED, otherwise the rest of your elements will be LED. You have big Outback branding here across the back, and as I move down even lower, you have even bigger Subaru branding across the back, spelled out into the bumper. Kind of a cool look, reminds me of a Ford Raptor. And as far as your tow rating, the Outback can tow up to 3,500 pounds. Now, it's a Subaru after all, so you're going to have all of your active safety features as standard equipment for this Outback model. And since we have the Touring behind us, that means you also do get the exclusive highway hands-free assist feature, which allows you to take your hands off of the steering wheel for certain mapped highways. Now, we did find all of these systems to work pretty well this week. They're nice and accurate, though they get a little finicky if it detects that you're not looking at the wheel or something. It will certainly let you know. But we have an exclusive Touring interior behind us, so let's get into that. But first,
if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from sound level readings to cargo measurements, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. Now it's time for the inside. First, here is our key fob. It's your typical Subaru key fob, and you have a standard smart entry system, as you'd expect. Better not drop that. Getting inside, just grab behind the handle. That'll unlock the door and fold the mirror outward. And then let's take a peek inside. Just like with the exterior, there are big changes to the inside that the Outback has never had before. Before we get into those individual things, though, we need to talk about the seats. So on the 2026 Outback, StarTech's leatherette is actually the standard seating material. And then as you move up, you go to real leather. And then finally with the Touring, you get Napa leather. That's one of the nicest grades of leather, and we really do like these seats. You can see that we have the brown color option, which looks fantastic with the color contrast stitching, black accenting on the outside edges, and even a special design on the inside of the bolsters. Overall, the seats are extremely comfortable as well. You have a manual thigh extension, and then you also get some additional adjustments from the other trims, including 4-way lumbar support, and memory seats are located right there. Let's go ahead and climb inside. And once we're fully inside, the rest of the cabin materials also are very nice, just like the seats. So over here on the door trim, we have a nice leather finish. It is going to be the brown leatherette through the center section with a stitching detail and a soft touch plastic along the top. As we move to the upper dashboard, soft touch plastic will run all through here. It's got a little bit of a texture to it as well. More brown leatherette through the center section with stitching details. And then down here at the bottom, it is going to be very solid feeling, but they did not do a pad for your knee to rest against. Now we'll fire it up with the push button start. Now, like always, a good place to start our feature tour will be here at the gauge cluster. This is a big area of tech improvement for the new Outback because it debuts Subaru's new digital gauge cluster. It's 12.3 inches. And unlike the previous one where you really couldn't do much of anything with it, this time you can actually reconfigure this to several different designs. You can see right now I have Google Maps inside the display itself. We can also change, though, to some more conventional views that are focused on your safety systems or just your speedometer and tachometer. Now, one thing I want to point out, though, that we're missing, even though the price point is pretty high on this, we don't have a head-up display. Some of the competition does include that. Now, as we pull back to the steering wheel, we've got a very typical Subaru design, nice leatherette wrapped. We have rain-sensing wipers on this top model. We also have steering wheel heating. One thing we've found out over the past week, though, is that it's heated basically 3/4 of the way, but doesn't heat the top. I'm not sure why. I mean, obviously you do have to turn the steering wheel at certain points. So I guess that's kind of a little bit of a cost cut. We've noticed in some of the automakers like Mazda is also not heating the top and bottom. Definitely a little chintzy if you ask me. Now, this wheel itself is manual tilt and telescoping. Now, let's turn over here to our center storage and get into that. Subaru paid more attention to maximize space this year, and inside our center console, you'll see some donuts. Actually, you'll see 11 donuts overall, which is slightly under our dozen donut test to pass that, but it is still pretty good because you got that cutout there that allows this to really fit those in there nicely. We have a little cubby right there, 2 enlarged cup holders, and then up in the front, you have a wireless phone charging pad for limited and above. Off to the side, you'll also notice a passenger storage shelf. No pass-through or anything like that, and that's because this does retain a more conventional shifter than a lot of the competition with electronic ones. So you're just going to pull back for drive, Up over here to the left if you want to go into a manual shift mode, and you can go through simulated gear changes with the paddle shifters. When I go into reverse, you'll see here on our top model a 360-degree camera system. So overall resolution on this is quite nice. This is certainly one of the most advanced systems I've seen on any Subaru product, and when I click that button there, I can actually demonstrate to you several different types of views, including this nice overhead look. Back behind there, you have your electronic parking brake with your auto brake hold system. Now, as we continue our tour up to this section, this will be a place where a lot of people will rejoice because, of course, Subaru has taken a lot of flack in recent years for having a big old screen with a lot of climate controls actually tied into the display itself. Now we have physical buttons for the dual zone automatic climate control system. And we have to say, over the past week, we certainly loved having the physical buttons. In the previous model, sometimes you have to wait for the screen itself to kind of warm up for a couple minutes before you could even get to the heated seats. And now you can pop on the heated seats, which are standard equipment, by the way, right as soon as you get inside the vehicle. Ventilated seats are part of just the touring model. And then another big area of improvement is right here at our display. So we've got a new display system and it's got a new software as well. This is a 12.1-inch display. It is standard on all models. And it has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is what I'm in right now. I can also just go back to the Subaru system itself here and give you a look at that. This is a far more advanced version than what they've ever offered before. The overall performance is nice and snappy. You have a nice layout here where you just have the shortcuts along the side. And we'll get into some more details about this in a dedicated tech help, but we were definitely impressed by the overall performance. Now off to the side there, you've got your volume knob for a couple different audio systems. We've got the 12-speaker Harman Kardon sound system, which comes on the limited trim and above. Let's give it a sample right now. Yeah, this is a really good sounding sound system. Our first impression in our first drive was very strong, and after living with it, I can certainly say it fills up the cabin nicely and it has more balanced sound quality than most in the segment. Now, finishing up a few last details of this cabin, we've got our auto dimming mirror up here at the top with home link remote. This is a digital camera rear view mirror with our top touring trim. Your top trims will also have this sunroof. Just like the previous generation, there's no panoramic sunroof because Subaru says a lot of people like to utilize the roof for actually sticking things up there. But as you can see, this does open up.
Now, the rear seats have always been a bright spot for this Outback, and it continues to get even better for 2026. Now, let's get into your figures themselves, sitting at about 39.5 inches of legroom and about 39.1 inches of headroom. That's about an inch extra legroom for 2026 because this model is about an inch and a half taller. Now, I also brought along the official Car Confections ruler as well to get my realistic knee room figure behind Drew's 5'8" driving position. I'm 5'9", sitting at 9 extra inches, which is really, really great. I also have plenty of room to slide my feet underneath the seat in front of me. And as far as the seats themselves, guys, these are ridiculously comfortable. Like, you can just see how plush they are, even the center seat. And I can also use the little strap down here to recline just a little bit. Now, you do also have a rear center armrest with 2 cup holders inside, and the features don't stop there. You do have standard vents on all models, and then all but the base model will give you heated rear seats. These are 2 stages, and then you also have 2 USB ports back here as well. Also like that you have all of these seat pockets behind the seat as well on both sides. Now, as far as your door trim is concerned, it's just as nice as it is in the front. You have a soft touch material at the top, lots of leatherette padding throughout, including your armrest, and then down to the bottom you have a really good amount of cup holder storage as well. Now let's check out the cargo space on the Outback. To get inside, you do have a standard power tailgate with auto closing on all models. And check out the cargo space for this second generation, or for this new generation of Outback. Sitting behind the second row seats, you're looking at about 34.6 cubic feet. And if I use the conveniently placed handles to fold the seats 60-40 split, you'll be looking at about 80.5 cubic feet. Now that is increased for this new generation by about 5 cubic feet as a maximum, and that is going to be more in line with its competition than ever. And if you do happen to be cross-shopping with a compact crossover like the RAV4, that's also going to be about 10 cubic feet more of space. Now, if you are cross-shopping this between any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. On there, we've gone through multiple crossover segments and ranked them in categories that matter most to you, the crossover buyer, whether that be cargo space, driving experience, powertrain options, and more. That would be a great place to go to make the most informed buying decision. So head to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings if you're curious about that. Now headed back to the Outback here. Let's get our cargo length, width, and height figures. This is a Car Confections review after all. Behind Drew's 5'8" driving position, we're sitting at 79 inches of overall length. Behind the second row, 41 inches. I'm going to get the width here. About 43 inches wide, which is quite good. And this model is taller, so height is definitely improved as well, sitting about 32 inches, which is also quite good. And for your load and height, pretty nice, 29 inches for that measurement. And as far as any other features back here, you do have a outlet here on the side, and underneath the floor, if I can get it up, you have a little bit more storage as well, and you will have a spare tire for this model. Alright guys, here we are behind the wheel of the all-new Subaru Outback. In this test drive, we'll be covering a lot, as you can see on the screen right now, as well as getting things like our official Kentucky sound level reading and sharing with you our real-world fuel economy. But first, we need to start with a hard acceleration.
Just like that, we're over 60 miles per hour.
Not too bad.
Yeah, not too bad. Now, like we already mentioned earlier in the video, this is the XT, so this is the more powerful of the two different engine options. So on the base engine, you've got a 2.5 liter boxer 4-cylinder engine, naturally aspirated, and then the XT is a 2.4 liter turbocharged boxer 4-cylinder engine. And this has got 260 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque. Those are nice jumps over the standard engine option, which is about 180 horsepower. And in terms of the 0 to 60, also pretty good. You're looking at under 7 seconds. It's about 6.6 seconds. And, you know, that's pretty nice for a mid-size SUV.
Yeah, it's definitely a leap from that base powertrain. For the exact specs on that model, it is a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated boxer 4-cylinder, making 180 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque. It's just a little bit tweaked for the 2026 model. And overall, the estimated 0 to 60 on that is closer to 8.8 seconds. So you're getting over 2 seconds of increased acceleration speed, and that's certainly noticeable behind the wheel of this Outback model.
Yeah, the main thing is definitely the torque. And while it's not required that you have this powertrain, I will say that the Outback is a fairly large vehicle to have that standard engine in. The 180 horsepower is more well suited for its uses in other Subaru products that are smaller. This one being a bigger body, I do think the XT is more worth the upgrade for sure, and it's the way that both of us would go.
Yeah, I would definitely prefer the XT for sure. And as far as that overall powertrain availability, of course, most models except for the Wilderness come standard with the base 2.5 model. The XT can be optioned on to the Limited and the Touring and is standard for the Wilderness.
Now let's talk about the other element of the powertrain, that is the transmission. This has a continuously variable transmission, and after living with it this week, I think we all were pretty impressed by the overall tuning of it. When you're accelerating hard, you get a shift simulation. It's very responsive as well. And then when you're accelerating more normally, like you do in just your everyday driving, you don't really notice it much. It kind of just blends into the background. It has a very kind of linear feel to it, which I guess is kind of what the name is,
right.
Lineartronic. But I will say it's not just marketing, I guess, because sometimes CVTs, you have that little bit of lag, right? It feels like you're just not getting the response that you wanted when you put your foot down, and this gives you what you expect.
Yeah, a traditional CVT is certainly not the first choice of transmission that our team would choose from, but honestly, I really enjoyed living with this. It blends into the background well, and under casual acceleration, you can barely hear that or the engine itself. But a big part of this Outback packaging has got to be the ride quality. So, as we go over these bridge abutments here, I think it demonstrates just how incredibly comfortable this model is. You know, Subaru knows that families are going to be taking these models for long road trips, and it needs to be as comfortable as possible, and they certainly achieved that with this new model. So as far as the overall tuning goes, this thing is super soft and comfortable. The seats themselves are really, really comfortable, both in the front and the back seats, and overall, bumps will blend back into the background seamlessly. And if you do choose the Wilderness model, you get the perk of having adaptive dampers as well, which help give you a little bit of variability under different driving conditions.
But I'm picking up the pace here to 55 miles an hour because you know it's time for our signature sound level reading.
We are down to fan speed 1, so let's go ahead and get that. All right, took a big leap down there to settle at 56.7 decibels for this new Outback model. Now, Subaru does say they've added things to help with the overall noise reduction in this cabin. And now I'll go to carconfections.com/sound level reading to see how it compares against the competition. Now that reading does place it in about the middle of the segment. It's still one of the quieter ones, but I will say compared to other previous generation Outback models we've tested on Kentucky roads, it is a little bit louder. I think that might just be because of its more substantial appearance overall. You know, it has less of that sleek roofline and has that boxier appearance and is over an inch taller now for this new generation.
Yeah, that could certainly be it. I will say that as far as what I hear in here, it's not really road noise, it's just wind noise, which is probably coming off of the raised roof rails. Now we're on a back road, so I think this is a good time to discuss one of the things that maybe surprised us the most about the Outback. And it's actually kind of fun to drive. You know, with this, even in its conventional trim levels, when you throw it around a corner, the body control is quite nice. It doesn't have a lot of body roll. And the other thing is that the steering is very responsive and very accurate. So you turn it off center, you get immediate feedback. And it's just really nice when you toss it down a back road. Now, you can't get too aggressive with it because eyesight does not like that at all. It was already starting to flash at me. Hey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But, you know, if you stay within your very specific lane markers here, you can have a good time.
Yeah, I think it's really rare to have a model that rides so well, but also can handle itself down a back road. So I think that's probably one of the things we were most impressed with living with it back home this week. Let's talk fuel economy as well. Your base engine will be sitting at 27 mpg combined, and then when you bump up to the XT model, it will bump you down in fuel economy to about 24 mpg combined, and the Wilderness is one lower at 23. Now, as far as what we've been sitting at this week in this model, we haven't fully completed our week of testing yet, so we'll be sure to put a picture in on the screen right now of our final testing, but our initial numbers are saying closer to that 24 mpg combined rating, so overall, I think this engine will be pretty fuel efficient.
Yeah, the thing to just really keep in mind here is that there's no hybrid at this time. Of course, the Forester has added a hybrid, the Crosstrek has added a hybrid, but for some reason we don't have that here on the Outback, and I'm hoping that they will add that in the next year or two, maybe even in replacement of that base engine. I think that would be a smart move for Subaru.
Yeah, I really hope they're working in the background, maybe even giving their standard hybrid system more power for this larger body.
And now it's time for the Slam Dunk and Airball. I will start off with the Slam Dunk, and that's the improvements for this new generation, specifically the tech improvements. I think if there's one single thing that makes this so much easier to live with than any previous version of the Outback, it's how much the technology has been enhanced. You just don't have so many hiccups and issues constantly, especially when the previous model had the climate control tied into the screen itself. You know, you might have to wait like a couple minutes to turn on your heated seats, for example, and you don't have to do that anymore, and it's certainly just a lot better to live with.
Yes, I completely agree with that. Now, on the Airball side of things, there's just a couple of little features we wish Subaru would have added, specifically to this touring model. You'll see here in just a few seconds, we're sitting right around the $50,000 price point. Would have loved to have seen them bring in the adaptive dampers that they put on the Wilderness model, as well as giving it things like a head-up display. And I think that Slam Dunk perfectly shares how we truly feel about this car after living with it for this past week. Do we like it better, the same, or worse? We certainly like it better. Especially when it comes to this tech, this model was already comfortable, already spacious, and this new generation just builds upon that and adds an even better tech experience for that. And all three of us, including Mason, who's at home with his family right now, feels the same way. Now let's talk pricing. So yes, the Outback is more expensive than ever before. I know it made a lot of headlines with that, but as you've seen throughout this review, you get quite a lot more equipment. But what is the actual prices? You start at about $35,000, and you can see the entire lineup on the screen right now. But when it comes to this top touring trim level, I have a little bit of a spec sheet here on it, and it starts at $47,995, and after the paint option and your destination, you're sitting just a hair under $50,000. Now, if you're curious as to where this model is made, it is made in Japan, and if you're looking to buy a new Outback or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. On there, you can get access to things like an invoice pricing tool, which is a great thing to use while dealer negotiating. You can also get access to things like a monthly payment tool as well. So if you're interested in checking that out, we do have a link in the video description, as well as a pinned comment at the top of this video. But buying a car is more than just the original MSRP, so let's dive into resale, reliability, and the warranty. Let's start with resale value. After 5 years and 60,000 miles, this Outback will be worth about 63% of its original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, about 23.7%. Now that is one of the best resale values in the entire industry, only trailing brands like Honda and Toyota.
Now, we also have done the same for reliability, and when we take into account the latest reliability data, Subaru is rated overall well above the industry average compared to other vehicle brands.
Now, if you're interested in our methodology and how we got these rankings together, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a car is a big purchase, so you want to make sure you're doing the right research when it comes to cross-shopping between different vehicle makes. Now, when it comes to Subaru's warranty, it's going to be covered by a 3-year 36,000-mile basic warranty, a 5-year 60,000-mile powertrain warranty, and they do not offer complimentary maintenance. Well guys, we hope you enjoyed our in-depth review and 7-day impressions of the all-new Subaru Outback. If you enjoyed watching this review and found our impressions helpful, which we hope you did, we would appreciate it if you would subscribe down below. When you do that, it helps tell manufacturers that you find these impressions useful, and that helps us get more cars down here for the entire week to test out. If you're already a subscriber to the channel, we appreciate your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.